You know, I'm a part of a lot. I'm a part of a couple. I wouldn't say a lot. I'm a part of a couple New York Knicks. I'm a part of a couple New York Knicks groups on Facebook. And I seen this pop up as a topic, and guys were talking about it, and I felt like this would be a great topic for tonight, right? The 5 worst trades for the New York Knicks since 2000, right? And I chose to start from 2000 because 2000 is around the time where I can say I vividly remember. You know, like I remember some things before 2000. I remember teams before 2000, but after 2000 and these trades, I feel like I can vividly remember the feeling of these trades and how I felt and what was happening, and I can remember that so intensely, right? So that's why I wanted to start it from 2000. And it's a pivotal point in the franchise. It was a pivotal change in the franchise around that point in 2000. So this is why I wanted to start here, right? So without further ado, let's go on to our first horrible trade since 2000. We're going to start with Steve Francis. Steve Francis was a bad trade, bro. And it kind of ushers in like, no, usher in. We already been deep in the shit by the time 2006 came, right? So Steve, let's go. 2006, Steve Francis traded for Trevor Ariza, right? He was traded for Trevor Ariza in 2006, right? Already had knee problems. He'd been injured a lot in years before we traded for him, right? And then we trade him. And the reason why I want to point out the importance that he was traded for Trevor Ariza, and not to forget Anthony Hardaway, aka Penny Hardaway, because we seen how a good of a role player that Trevor Ariza turned out to be throughout his career. We never gave Trevor Ariza a chance to develop into the player he was going to be, and we traded him for Steve Francis, a player. Yo, Andrew, that's a fact. We definitely get our players from the retirement home, dead ass. Yo, so yeah, we never let Trevor Ariza develop into the player that he was going to be. You feel me? So that was very pivotal a point in why this trade is so horrible, right? And plus, you gotta mention that Steve Francis was already on the decline. Listen. We gonna get there, Curtis. Let's not jump the gun. You feel me? We still got 4 more trades to talk about, right? So Steve Francis already had knee problems, right? Already had knee problems, consistently injured in years before we traded for him. And he played a year and a half for the New York Knicks, right? He only played a year and a half for us, 24 games after being traded, right? And 44 games in the season that followed before we traded him, right? He only played, and that's the thing that we was known for doing in this time period, was trading for people who were past their prime and already injury prone. And Steve Francis is indicative of that era. And if I'm not mistaken, that was a part of the great and wonderful and tumultuous and frustrating and wanting to rip my hair out Isaiah Thomas era. That era killed me, bro. And Steve Francis was in the heart of that, right? That trade was in the heart of that era. And again, like I said, in that point we was known for trading for injury prone people that was already over the hill, and Steve Francis was indicative of that. 24 games after we traded for him, 44 games the previous season in 07, right? 06, 07. And I want to know, like, another reason why this is a horrible trade. on his contract, we paid that man the following season $15 million. In 2006, $15 million was a lot of freaking money. Off the salary cap, 15 mil on your salary cap, bro, in 2006 was damn near a max contract. Nah, it wasn't, but it was a lot of money, bro. It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money, undeniably a lot of cash. You feel me? A lot of cash in 2006, right? So not only was he already injury prone, not only did we trade away a future solid role player a future solid role player in Trevor Ariza. We did get rid of another bad contractor, which was Penny Hardaway's, who was another person that was over the hill. But we took on a contract for $15 million in 2006. Again, I'm gonna reiterate, was a lot of freaking cash. You feel me? On your salary cap. And he only played 44 games for us in the previous season after we traded for him. Horrible trade. Horrible. Isaiah Thomas era. Yes, that's what that was. So we got rid of him the following season. We traded him to the Trailblazers for Zebo. And you know, Zebo gave us some buckets, but Zebo wasn't even a great trade within itself. But moving right along on to number 4. Number 4 on our top 5 horrible trades since 2000, Andrea Bargnani. Boy, was that a bad trade. And then I will say this. Yo, Solomon, do not come in with that hateration and holleration in this dancery, right? So, Andrea Bargnani, in 2013, horrible trade. I will say this, when that trade happened, I was optimistic. I don't know why I was optimistic, but I don't know. I was just optimistic for some strange reason in 2013 when we traded for Andrea Bargnani. Maybe because we didn't trade away a lot. You feel me? We traded away a old Marcus Camby, Steve Novak, and Quentin Richardson. Quentin Richardson was already over the hill and on the decline, so getting rid of him wasn't not a big deal. But I was quickly and swiftly reminded why this was a horrible trade, right? He played 42 games the season after we traded him. He already had injury. He was already injury prone before we traded for him, right? He was already injury prone before we traded for him, and this is why this is a bad trade. Not so much what we gave up for him, is the fact that we didn't now we doing, Solomon, we doing, oh no, we starting from 5, baby. We going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you feel me? So, and we also doing from 2000, right? So, yeah, back to Andrea Bargnani. The 2 seasons before he came to the Knicks, he only played 31 and 35 games, right? So, it wasn't the people that we traded for, Andrea Bargnani, which made it a bad trade. It was just himself. Yeah, but that is true. But that first round didn't really produce much, you feel me? So I'm not really mad at the first rounder either. I'm just mad that we freaking traded for this bum, right? So, like I was saying, the 2 seasons before, he only played 31 and 35 games. Severely injury prone, and what I was saying, 31 to 35 games, and then he continues in tremendous fashion with only playing 42 games in the 2014 and 2013-2014 season, and then the 2014-2015 season, he only played 29 games. horrible trade because that man could not stay on the floor, and when he was healthy, he didn't produce. He was soft, he was a bum. Bum, 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 bum. Andrea Bargnardi, super dookie trash mode, bro. Horrible trade, bro. And not only that, we paid him $11 million. He was getting a nice check off of us to not play at all, which sucks. Which continues to be, Curtis, 11.5 to be closer to exact. You feel me? 11.5 to be exact, right? So, all right, let's move on to the next one. And our very horrible worst trades for the New York Knicks since 2000, right? So here we go. But wait, there's more. The Antonio McDyess trade. Bro, I know a lot of y'all probably are looking like this trade should be higher on the list, right? A lot of y'all might feel, pardon me. A lot of y'all might feel that this trade should be higher on the list than number 3, but it's number 3. This trade was catastrophically horrible, bro. Like, I can't even rationalize any logical thinking behind trading for this man, right? This trade was horrible. So in 2002, we traded for Antonio McDyess, who showed tremendous promise in previous seasons before us trading for him. His scoring prowess was known around the league, but this was a horrible trade for reasons I'm about to mention. We traded Antonio McDyess for Marcus Camby and Mark Jackson and our 7th overall pick. Our 7th overall pick ended up turning to be Nene. Right? Nene turned out to be a really good player throughout his career, and we gave that away for Antonio McDyess. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who forget that we drafted Nene in 2002 and traded him away. Oh man, that's horrible. That's horrible. Nene turned out to be a really good player, bro. And we traded away from Antonio McDyess. And what makes it even worse, that the season before we traded for Antonio McDyess, he had a major knee injury. A major knee injury before we even traded for him. He was hurt when we traded for him. This makes absolutely no sense. Why do you trade for a guy, especially back then in 2002, like now, having a major knee injury now in 2019 is very different from having a major knee injury in 2002. The medicine now versus 2002 is completely different. So having a major knee injury in 2002 is damn near career ending. But the Knicks somehow, some way, think that it was wise to trade for Antonio McDyess. And if I'm not mistaken, guess who era of presidency that was for the New York Knicks? I believe this was the Isaiah Thomas era as well. Antonio McDyess already had a major knee injury before we even trade for him, right? And that major injury led him not even playing the whole 2000 and 2003 season. Right? Yes, this is a fact. This is a fact, Marlon. We literally housed him for him to rehab and get... it wasn't the Spurs. We traded him to Detroit. Yo, he didn't even play the whole first season that we traded for him. the whole entire first season, we traded for him. Yo, that is wild. Oh, Ed Trapscott? Well, my bad. Thank you for the correction, Marlon. And who else said it? Curtis. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate you guys for keeping me honest. I will not admit. I will admit that I do not know all. Sometimes I draw blanks, and I appreciate you guys, right? But yeah, my man missed the whole entire 2000 and 2003 season. The very next season after we traded for him and gave away Nene. He only played 18 games as a Knick in 2000 and 2004 before we finally traded him to the Detroit Pistons. Right? Which is wild, bro. That man only played 18 games. And we gave him in 2002 what was a whole bunch of cash, fam. A whole bunch of cash. In 2002 and 2003, without him ever suiting up in a Knicks jersey and playing a game, that man made $12.6 million. Do you know how much $12.6 million was in 2002 for an NBA player? That was a lot of money, bro. That was a lot of money, bro. Daddy, you missed it. Andrea Bargnardi was number 4. Andrea Bargnardi was number 4. That is a lot of money for somebody to only play. And then the following year, when he only played 18 games, he got 13.5 from us. Horrible trade, bro. Not only to mention Marcus Camby was still in his, well, he was having a little back issues, but he was still producing pretty good. We be getting there, Curtis. We getting there. Marcus Camby was still producing pretty good when we traded him, and then we give Nene on top of that, and we seen the kind of career Nene had. We had number 3. Is in the picture right over my what you would call it, my right shoulder. Right? So, oh, pardon. I knew this was gonna happen. Pardon me. Somebody's at my door. Pardon me, guys. Give me a second. Oi, 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 oi. Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir.
Anytime. Okay,
how are you too? My bad, y'all. I got a package delivery. Oh no. I kicked the lights out. I kicked the lights out. Pardon me, guys. Give me a second. Yeah. I kicked the lights out. My bad, y'all. Yeah, I got a package delivered. And as y'all see, I be comfortable for the waist down. I got on shorts and socks. I got a blazer on and shorts and socks. Nah, no company. I got a package delivered. My bad, y'all. Yeah, so where was I before I was so rudely interrupted by my door? Yeah, so like I was saying, not only was it a bad trade because of who Nene became, Marcus Camby was having back injuries, but he was still producing, and we gave away Mark Jackson, which he was already kind of on the down slope. He was old, you feel me? But yeah, that was just a horrible trade. Moving right along to number 2 on that list. Number 2 on that list, here we go. All right, number 2 on that list is the Eddie Curry trade. And I know a lot of y'all probably wondering, why is he above Antonio McDyess in the numbers for trades? Yeah, because it's horrible. This trade was, This trade was bad, right? It was bad, and I'm gonna tell you why it was bad. This trade kind of frustrates me because this trade. All right, let me just talk about it because I'm about to start getting tight. Yo. Eddie Curry trade, horrible trade. We traded in 2005. We traded for Eddie Curry. We traded away Mike Sweetney and Jermaine Jackson. I don't even remember who the fuck Jermaine Jackson is. And we swapped picks for 2006 and 2007, right? This is the biggest problem I have. This is fact, Danny. But watch what I'm about to say why this trade was so bad. It's the underlying issue of what this trade was, right? The picks that we swapped end up being Joakim Noah and LaMarcus Aldridge. Bro, can you imagine if the Knicks would have drafted Joakim Noah and LaMarcus Aldridge, and that would have been our front court? And if I'm not mistaken, Marbury was still running point at that time for the New York Knicks. We may not have won a championship, but we would have made shit interesting, my friend. We would have made it super interesting. At least he played. This is granted. But after I finish making this point about who the draft picks we traded for him were, I'm going to get into his playing, right? So those picks, like I said, became Joakim Noah and LaMarcus Aldridge. And could you imagine the possibilities of drafting Joakim Noah and LaMarcus Aldridge? Because Joakim Noah in his prime was a dominant defender. And he was a pretty good rebounder. And then you have the scoring prowess of LaMarcus Aldridge, another big man. And we also had Jamal Crawford, Danny, which is facts. That team would have been stacked. We would have made things very interesting if we had that roster. But no, we traded our picks away, as per usual, for Eddie Curry. And then you got to think about it like this, right? Who knew what those picks were going to produce? But we literally gave nothing away for Eddie Curry. I could kind of see why the Knicks would want to trade for Eddie Curry, because he did show promise while he was in Chicago. But Chicago was too willing to part with Eddie Curry for Mike Sweetney and Jermaine Jackson. I don't even know who Jermaine Jackson is. But they traded Eddie Curry for them two guys and 2 picks. That's a fact. It was other players in that trade. We always getting robbed at gunpoint, Marlon, right? So Chicago was just too willing to part with Eddie Curry so quickly. I guess it was for the obvious that he definitely had weight issues. He was 7 foot, 300 pounds, and he wasn't in the best shape. If you look at him physically, he was never really in the best shape ever. You feel me? So Chicago definitely saw something that they had to get rid of Eddie Curry, and they did a great job because they definitely got Joakim Noah. It's crazy. But we were stuck with Eddie Curry for Eddie Curry for 5 years, right? And in that 5 years, he didn't earn much, you feel me? He didn't have major big contracts, but it grew from 7.3 mil to just about $1 million every year until he reached about 10.5 before we traded him. We were stuck with him for 5 years. And his first year, he did pretty decent, but his off the court issues definitely hampered and his performance and his mentality, you know, he was going through a lot of stuff. He got robbed a few times. It was wild, son. It was wild. And injuries. So it was a horrible trade because of the things that Eddie Curry ended up going through, his injuries, and who our draft picks turned out to be. Trading away first-round draft picks has always killed the Knicks. And I feel like since 2000, this trade, as far as trading away draft picks, kind of like was one that hurt big time, because what that team could have been if we never traded away those draft picks. You feel what I'm saying? If we never swapped those draft picks, we would have had a contender team, bro. Undeniably a contender team. Who could say that we would have won a championship, but would we have contended at some point? Absolutely. But we didn't, because we traded for motherfucking Eddie Curry. Number 2, Eddie Curry. Horrible trade. Continuing on our list of worst trades since 2000, the one that hurt me personally the most as a New York Knicks fan. The Patrick Ewing trade. The Patrick Ewing trade. Let me tell you why this trade hurt the most. As a New York Knicks fan, the Patrick Ewing trade is the worst because it definitely signified our demise. Like, that is the turning point of the culture of the New York Knicks. If you want to pinpoint the absolute turning point of where the Knicks started to go all the way downhill, was when we traded Patrick Ewing in 2000. That's a fact. The headline of that trade and what we received was definitely Luke Longley. That is disgusting. That is disgusting. Disgusting, right? That is absolutely disgusting. You trade one of the greatest Knicks, one of the greatest Knicks of all time, right? One of the greatest Knicks of all time for Luke Longley. Luke Longley. And there's some other people in that trade. There was a lot of names in that trade. But, bro, I don't care what the disagreement was with the team. I think Pat, he was coming on a contract year, and again, I depend on you guys to keep me honest if my facts are not correct. You feel me? So, I believe they was having Patrick Ewing was coming up on a contract year. And the Knicks didn't want to pay him, so they traded him. You know, we got a first. Oh man, yo, this was the most. Because they didn't want him, they didn't want to give Pat his money, Marlon, if I'm not mistaken. Because they didn't want to pay Pat. But this was stupid. Nonetheless, whatever, and even if, right? Even if he demanded the trade, it was the New York Knicks' job to make sure that Pat was happy. And if I'm not mistaken, it's because they told Pat that he wasn't going to get paid his money. The money that he wanted. which was going to be his farewell check for the New York Knicks. This is why we're cursed. You can literally look at this moment and be like, this is the beginning of the New York Knicks curse. You can definitely point to this moment and say, this is where it all started. Because we didn't want to give Pat his bread. This is a fact, Marlon. This is a fact. He was washed by that. He was. But regardless of the fact, bro, all the sweat and tears that he put in to being a New York Knick, we was supposed to send him out right. We were supposed to send him out right. He was cooked, but he deserved better from us. He definitely deserved better from us. We should have definitely paid Pat, Curtis. Definitely paid Pat, regardless if he was cooked or not. Pat Ewing gave us some of the best Knick years since Walt Clyde and them won the championship. Some most exciting basketball of my New York Knicks fandom and lifetime was watching Pat Ewing. Pat Ewing put it on the line for us. Even though he never could get over the great Chicago Bulls hump, you feel me? He can never get past the great Michael Jordan. But bro, if he's not the greatest Knick ever, bro, if he's not the greatest Knick ever, and not give him what he asked for on his what you know was going to be his final contract, is disrespectful. And I don't blame him for demanding to be traded. He should have demanded to be traded. Marlon, you know why you used to love Pat? Because Pat was the fucking guy, son. You feel me? Because Pat was the fucking guy. That's why you love Pat. Right? We didn't trade for Noah. We signed Noah. Did we? I don't remember. I feel like we signed Noah. Yeah, but anyway. But Pat Ewing, that trade was, it was definitely the end of an era. It definitely signified the downhill slope that what we know to be the New York Knicks culture, and we've been doomed ever since. For damn near 20 years, we've been doomed ever since we traded Pat Ewing. Wow. Right? Wow. They did not want to give Pat his money, which they should have. There's no rationality that anyone could tell me to say that the Knicks shouldn't have paid Pat, even while he was injured. Facts. Facts. A lot of people say, well, Pat never won it for us. He literally went up against every year. Damn near every year in the playoffs, he literally battled it out with what we know to be as the greatest player of all time. Every year he went to battle with the greatest player of all time. He lost that battle because the guy is the greatest player of all time. But no one can ever say that Pat ever quit. Pat did not give his all for the New York Knicks organization. Pat was tough as hell, bro. You gotta understand. You know, I seen Pat get dunked on quite a few times, right? but Pat was never scared to try to block a shot, bro. We're in an era where they had tremendous dunkers and guys where putting people on posters was like the thing that most NBA players thrive for. Pat would contest shots. Pat was good on defense as well as scoring buckets on the other side. Pat, probably the greatest Knick of all time. That's arguable. But in my eyes, the greatest. This is a fact, bro. That man deserved his bread. How many years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 or 17 years. He gave it up for the Knicks every year, bro. 16 or 17 years, bro. 16, 17, whatever, right? He gave it up for the organization, and for us to trade him is the reason why we're cursed, and that's the number one horrible trade since 2000. Bro, this is what I'm saying, Marlon. Pat is the worst trade, if not of all time, of New York Knicks history, but definitely since 2000. And I remember that day, and I remember being hella pissed off. I was pissed off. I knew Pat was washed up, but I knew we shouldn't have traded him. It just felt dirty. It felt dirty, son. I felt dirty after we traded him. But yeah, that is